Chris Chapman, Fox Sports Las Vegas. Other teams that we've seen come through here, it seems like they have the same 2 or 3 players that are up at the podium every night, but you guys seem to have different guys every single night. What does it say about the depth of this team and just how some of those guys lower down the lines are stepping up?
Yeah, I mean, we've tried to, we function that way all year. Different terms like no passengers, right? We need everyone. We don't rely on 2 or 3 players or the goaltender standing his head. We need a timely save. We certainly got that in overtime. Timely goals. Marcia So gets a big one for us, gives us a chance. So there's certainly guys that we need to be drivers, I'll say, but they don't have to be the driver 82 times, then again, and how many times in the playoffs, right? So different guys can get us going, and we saw that tonight. We saw it the other night. Teddy Bluger scores a big goal we thought would be the go-ahead goal. But so there's different people that contribute for us every night, and that's why we're having success. But again, there is guys we rely on, and leaders lead, followers follow type of thing, and we still need those leaders to push us in the right direction.
Up front.
Jesse Granger with The Athletic. Speaking of those leaders, it seemed like they were defending you guys really well, and then in the third period, Jack Eichel was a little more assertive with the puck, trying to drive things. Is that a conversation you have with him? Is that kind of – and what did you see from him in that?
No, I agree. They were checking well. We didn't execute well enough early on, and then I think there was a little level of frustration in the second period, and they did a good job with it. But then you're never out of the game when it's only one goal, right? So we were – doing enough to stay in the game, but we weren't at our game. And I thought Jack all night was trying to be a difference maker. He did not get frustrated. He wanted the puck. He wanted to be on the ice. And so we tried to get him involved a little more in the third. We're trying to, use everybody because it's still a 2-1, you know what I mean? And we feel some of our chances will come from our fourth line. I thought Will Carrier had one of our better chances tonight coming out of the goal line. Teddy the other night, like I said, they can generate. But Jack, yeah, he had it. He had a good mindset all night. Like I said, he wanted to make a difference. He had his legs, and eventually they got rewarded. Made a nice play, but I certainly thought he was on his game and has been. Basically the first game against Winnipeg, we've discussed that already. But since then, he's ready to go every night.
Right side, second row.
Ken Bolkison in Vegas. Feels like they're kind of funneling pucks along the walls in the offense when you guys are in the offensive zone. Is that something you expected in the series, and how do you feel like that's been going, defending that?
When they're in the offensive zone, yeah.
When you're in the offensive zone.
When we're in the offensive zone, their offensive zone?
They're trying to exit along the walls.
Oh, the walls. Sorry. I thought you meant, okay. Yeah, I think their breakout typically is that, listen, I don't want to get... Depending on what D gets it, a lot of times it's a strong side, and they flood there, and they have numbers, and they try to just outnumber you at the puck and, break out that way. Other times it goes out the other side. It's hard to use the middle of the ice to break pucks out when you're playing against really good forechecking teams. So I consider us one of those, and I consider them one of those, so it's hard. So you have to take what's available, and then you got to win the board battles. So, yes, and we're trying to shut all those down, and you got to be on time to do that. Can't be in the middle of line changes because it requires 5 guys, right? Because if you start just going to the boards, then of course they'll go up the middle. So you still got to count for that. But a good example is that we're on time was the overtime goal. Theo gets down on time, and we have a forward that can reload above him in case it doesn't work out, because you don't want to just do it and hope, right? Because that's how you give up the 2-on-1. So we were able to win that battle. So you got to win your share of battles on the walls. That's what they're probably looking at right now. They need to win that battle, or at least neutralize the play, and good for us for winning it, and it led to a good attack.
Left side.
Ben Goetz, Las Vegas Regional. Bruce, you said last series you're learning that Jonathan Marchessault has big goals in the playoffs. What did it mean to get another one from him tonight?
Yeah, I thought he was off a little earlier on. Like our pace, like a lot of our guys, we were getting pucks instead of moving all together. We were looking around to make, you know what I mean? We weren't fast, playing fast, and it showed. That's why we didn't create much offense, and they were able to check us well. But he does find a nose for the net, and that line, like I said, started going a little bit, and he got to his spot, and he didn't miss. He missed one earlier, right? I wouldn't say missed it. The goalie made the save, but I think he wanted to go maybe in a different spot, because I could tell he's back in the bench swearing in French, so I knew that he missed his shot. It wasn't just upset the guy saved it, but I think he felt he didn't get it where he wanted to, but he didn't miss the next one. So good for him. It's a good guy to have in your team, and these guys that score under pressure.
Stay on the left.
Ryan Clark, ESPN. Bruce, when you look at just the way this team wins, whether it's in overtime, whatever, how do you describe sort of the versatility to where in a series like this, yes, you're up 2-0, but it could be tied 1-1 or down 0-2. Like, how do you explain what makes this team work?
Well, I've tried to say that the start of the year we tried to build in a culture that we're going to use everybody, we're going to rely on everybody. To the question earlier, we're going to expect our best players to be our best players and the followers to follow along and they do what they do best. We're going to give them an opportunity to do that as well. We're going to play them so they feel like they have value in the team. So I think that's been all year. Injuries come. I think this team's good at not making excuses. Adversity hits, you got to play through it and come out the other side better off for it. So I don't have a magic answer to that other than, the guys we use every night. We have good players, a lot of good players, just because they're listed on the so-called third line. Like I wouldn't call, like William Karlsson's got 7 goals in the playoffs, and he's listed as our third line center. It's because we have depth there too. So there's a little bit of that going on. There's a lot of good players in the lineup that could contribute. So I just think it's right now in this playoffs that they're recognizing when they need to step up a little more because maybe another line doesn't have it, right? And that's a little bit of maturity in your group, and it's a little bit of togetherness and a little bit of caring about the guy beside you. So that I don't know if that answers it, but that's kind of what we've gotten.
In the middle.
Dan Rosen, NHL.com. Bruce, Chandler Stevenson takes the slashing penalty from behind on Rupe hands, what looked like a retaliatory cross-check on Colin Miller, and then he scores the overtime goal. Can you just take me through your range of emotions about his afternoon?
Well, yeah, I did. The slash happens sometimes. We talked about it. When you do it out in the open, they tend to get, like those slashes, I mean, it's hockey, right? It happens probably, you can't call everyone. It'd be in the box. But you get caught a little bit when it's out in the open ice. He got caught the other night. I think it was against Johnson. And so you got to be careful when you're going to use those, right? And then the second was a blatant, he was frustrated or whatever he was. I'm sure he'd be the first to tell you that if you had to do it over again, you kind of take a number in the playoffs and you move on and, try to get payback later or, like I said. So we just talked about that after the second. Let's not let our egos get in the way or things like that of having success. It's playoffs. You got to deal with it. Sometimes you're going to get a call and you're going to take a hit, and sometimes you're not going to get a call or whatever's bothering you. But at the end of the day, you got to play through it. And I think he did after that. I thought his third period was very good. He had good jump. He was trying to impact the forecheck, make plays. So, he came out of it the other side. He's been there. He knows that these things, you can't let these things bother you, but it's an emotional game. So good for him for responding. So I'm sure he wouldn't have felt great if we didn't. But that goes back to your question. Marchessault picks him up by scoring to give him a chance to respond and now be the hero. So there's a little bit of that going on right now. And I think when teams get this far, I'm sure Florida would say a lot of the same things, right? There just happens to be guys picking each other up and good things are happening.
Left side, third row.
Mark Anderson, AP. This team has 8 postseason comeback wins. You mentioned the adversity, the adversity you went through earlier in the season, all the injuries. Do you think that helped build up the determination, I guess you call it, for this postseason?
I think everything we went through, whether injuries and at different positions, et cetera, yes. We've got a thick skin. But again, it's veteran guys that know that one goal is not going to, you get scored on first shouldn't dictate the rest of the game, right? Obviously, you got to, teams that extend leads, they're in the playoffs. They're better at protecting them because they've gone this far. So you got to be careful. You got to get going again. We've done a good job with that. The interesting part is our first period scoring numbers during the regular season was probably our best period of differential. Now in the playoffs, it seems like we're chasing it a bit. Yet I don't think we play poorly in the first period in a lot of games. Certainly some of them we have, but for whatever reason, not as many are going in. Not that tonight was a great first period by any means, but so good for us for coming back. We have the ability to score in the room. And again, usually your goaltender has to make some saves so it to not get out of hand too until you find your game, and that certainly has happened a lot as well.